Hey there folks, how you doing today? Hope all is going well with you. Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background racket that you might hear throughout this production. We are on location where life happens, and sometimes there's stuff going on out there that interferes with what we've got going in here. Also, the fan is going, so you might hear a little bit of feedback over the microphone. I do my best to keep it low to avoid that being an issue, but just know it is a thing. It's a hot one today. Was out at the range for 4 hours filming stuff for the channel today. Hopefully you'll get something out of it and enjoy it. I'm sure by now you've noticed this nice looking pair of pistols that we've got on the table here. The pistols, while they were certainly part of the discussion, are actually just the platform on which we are illustrating these nice Crimson Trace reflex optics that we're going to be reviewing here today. Before I go any further, as I always like to do, it drives some of you nuts, but it's not going to change. Show you here, folks, that is a safe and empty weapon. Also, by the way, shooting grip, slide release, it works. That means something to somebody out there. Now that we have the safety muster out of the way, let's get on to talking about the optics, folks. This is the Crimson Trace RAD Pro here on my Smith & Wesson 10mm M&P. And here on my buddy Joe's 10mm Glock Model 29 is the Crimson Trace RAD, which is held in place by a Duke Defense mount that we'll talk about more in a separate video. Now I know at this point some of you might be wondering, I thought Crimson Trace made laser grip things for pistols. Well, they do, but they also make a lot of other stuff. So take a moment to listen to this word from our sponsor. If you are watching this, then you probably know that Crimson Trace has a long and reputable history producing quality laser products for the firearms industry, such as the LS-250 laser saddle shown here on the Mossberg Shockwave. But did you know they now have a full line of quality accessories to include both red and green laser sights, tactical lights, electronic sights, and rifle scopes to rival other premium brands on the market today? From the novice outdoorsman to the tactical professional, Crimson Trace offers a wide range of budget-friendly to premium rifle scopes to meet your operational needs. All Crimson Trace products are backed by their no-hassle limited lifetime warranty. Check them out now and use promo code J10 to save 10% off your next purchase. So as I mentioned before, the one pistol's wearing the Crimson Trace RAD and the other one has the Crimson Trace RAD Pro. What's the difference between the two? Well, I've got some notes here. I'm going to read over them while I put some stuff up on the screen for you here. We'll start with the RAD. The RAD has an MSRP of $250 for the red one or $275 for the green. It's a full-size open reflex sight with what they call the CT RAD footprint, which is compatible with the Dr. Noblek style footprint. It takes a conventional CR1632 battery, which has a top access. It has a battery life of 7,000 plus hours for the green dot and 20,000 plus hours for the red dot. To put that in perspective, green dot, that's about 1 year. The red dot is well over 2 years. It has an IPX7 waterproof rating, and it is shock, impact, and fog resistant. The Crimson Trace RAD with the green dot has a 5-minute of angle dot, while the red one has a 3-minute of angle dot. Using them at conventional combat ranges today in broad daylight, I couldn't tell much difference between the two. The RAD is made of 7075 aluminum, 30% stronger than the 6061, which is the industry standard for optics. So the Crimson Trace RAD Pro shares all the same features of the standard RAD with the addition of a shake to wake feature, which is really nice. It turns itself off after a few minutes. As soon as it senses motion, it comes back on. That's going to do well to help preserve battery life. Also, and what I found out today was my favorite feature, is it automatically adjusts the brightness level based on ambient light. That was huge. I mounted these optics last night in the kitchen, got them both set up about where I thought they needed to be. Then when I got out to the range today, the first gun I picked up was the Smith & Wesson with the RAD Pro, and as soon as I pointed it down range, I could see the red dot nice and clear. When it came around time to use the standard RAD, I noticed that I had to turn it up a couple of notches. No big deal, but I had to reach over and press a button on it. But enough about the specifications. If you want to know more about either of these optics, just look on Crimson Trace's website. They have a full line of specifications that you can read on each and every one of them. I think y'all want to know how they did at the range. Well, for starters, Any shooter worth his salt knows that you have to come up with your excuses before you start shooting to justify the end result. With that in mind, I had already been on the range for 3 hours on a very hot day performing other review work. But I finally got around to the pistols, and I started out with my pistol, the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 with the 4.6-inch barrel, with the Crimson Trace RAD Pro mounted on top of it. For starters, as soon as I pulled it out of the case, I noticed the red dot was already on, and that it was bright and visible in the broad daylight that we were shooting in. So I took a kneeling rest off of the shooting bench and fired my first 5-shot group at 10 yards, figuring I was going to have to make some adjustment to the sight to sight it in for the pistol. Now, while that wasn't the best group, that was the first group that I had fired with the RAD Pro, and the first time that I had fired that handgun in quite a while. So I was pleased with it. That is until I picked up the Glock Model 29 with the Crimson Trace RAD with the green dot and literally cut one jagged hole in the target. The group size with the Glock that I had never fired before was literally half the size of the group that I shot with my own weapon. Now, why is that? Well, it could be because this pistol has a green dot as opposed to the red dot. Get a little nerdy on you here. The visible light spectrum goes from ultraviolet to infrared, with red being over here at this end of the spectrum and green being right in the middle. So what does that mean? Simply put, green is easier for most people to see than red. Green is easier for me to see than red. So that could be the reason why the group with the Glock was better. What do I think it was? Well, I have a lot more practice shooting Glocks than I do anything else, and I think that probably had more to do with it. I like Glocks, I'm very comfortable with them, and as that group showed, the only issue with that pistol, with that configuration, was I had to make a slight adjustment to the sights. So then I shot my second group with the Glock 29 up on the upper left-hand target, and you'll see that while it still needed to go a little bit to the left, it was pretty good. Good enough, in fact, that when we moved out to a 50-yard steel plate, once I found that yellow plate against the tan background, I had no problem keeping up with it. I went on to shoot several more rounds of full power 10mm ammunition through both pistols, and observed no issues whatsoever with either sight. So basically, I would say concerning the Crimson Trace RAD, it's all going to come down to preference. Do you prefer red or green? Do you want shake awake and the automatic adjustment? Based on my life experience, I think the shake awake feature and the ambient light control is worth the additional cost of the RAD Pro. So final thoughts on the Crimson Trace RAD and RAD Pro. I think the RAD Pro is definitely better than the RAD in that it has some nice features that in the end are going to enhance shootability. As far as the red versus green, to each their own. I prefer green. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Remember, there's a discount code in the pinned comment. I didn't put it in the description because YouTube has some weird rules about stuff. But otherwise, until next time, we'll see you folks later. Take care. God bless.